You know, we talk a lot about the big, famous forces that run the universe, like gravity. But there's another force, a quieter one, that's working all around us and inside us every single second. It's this incredible hidden force that's absolutely essential to life itself. Today, we're diving into osmotic pressure.
So let me just start by asking you this. Think about the tallest trees in the world, like a giant redwood. How in the world does water get from the roots, deep in the ground, all the way up to the very top leaves, hundreds of feet in the air? It's fighting gravity the whole way. I mean, there's no little pump inside the trunk, right? So what's doing all that heavy lifting?
Well, the answer is osmotic pressure. And here's the easiest way to picture it. Imagine you've got a box split down the middle by a special filter. On one side, pure water. On the other, water with sugar dissolved in it. Now, this filter is picky. It lets tiny water molecules through, but it blocks the bigger sugar molecules. What happens? The water molecules are going to rush over to the sugary side to try and even things out, to dilute the sugar. And that rush, that push of water, creates a real powerful pressure. That's it. That's osmotic pressure.
Now here's the thing. This wasn't some brand new discovery back in the day. Throughout the 1800s, scientists knew this force was real. They could see it happening in plants all the time, but they were completely stuck. They could see what was happening, but they had no idea why or how it worked. It was this huge, frustrating puzzle, and it had some of the smartest people of the time scratching their heads. And get this, it wasn't for a lack of trying. In 1877, a botanist named Pfeffer finally nails it. He actually manages to measure the pressure accurately. So he takes his numbers to this giant of physics, a guy named Clausius, and says, here's the data, find the law. But even Clausius, one of the best in the world, couldn't crack it. The answer was right there in the numbers, but nobody could see the pattern.
And the pressure they were seeing was just wild. Pfeffer discovered that a measly 1% sugar solution could create a pressure of 2/3 of an atmosphere. That is a ton of force, coming from what seems like basically nothing. It was obvious this wasn't some tiny, quirky little effect. This thing was a powerhouse. And that's why cracking this puzzle was so important. A botanist named Hugo de Vries figured out this pressure. What he called turgor is the only thing keeping plant cells from wilting and collapsing. Then, two other scientists, Donders and Hamburger, found out it's just as crucial for our own blood cells. And it didn't even stop there. The same force was at play in chemistry, binding water into crystals. This one mystery held the keys to botany, medicine, and chemistry all at once. So after all that struggle, who finally solved it? The big breakthrough came from a chemist, J.H. van Hoff. He looked at all the pieces, the wilted plants, the blood cells, Pfeffer's mysterious data, and he had this brilliant, revolutionary aha moment. It all came down to a simple comparison.
Van Hoff's idea was so elegant, it's almost beautiful. He just thought, wait a minute. What if the sugar molecules floating around in water act just like gas molecules bouncing around in a box? You know how gas pressure comes from all those molecules hitting the walls of their container? He realized osmotic pressure is the exact same thing. It's just the dissolved molecules hitting that special membrane instead. Same behavior, different state. And that led to an absolutely stunning conclusion. If you have the same number of molecules in the same amount of space at the same temperature, the osmotic pressure they create in a solution is exactly equal to the pressure they would create if they were a gas. They weren't just similar forces. For all practical purposes, they were the same force.
And let me tell you, this was way more than just a clever trick to explain some confusing data. This simple idea, osmotic pressure equals gas pressure, became a universal law. And it blew the doors wide open on parts of chemistry that had been sealed shut for decades. To really get how big a deal this was, you have to understand the roadblock chemists were up against. Before Van Hoff, the only way they could figure out the weight of a molecule was if they could turn it into a gas. It was a massive dead end for so many substances. But now, boom. With this new law, they could use osmotic pressure to weigh molecules that were dissolved in liquids or even mixed into solids. The problem of weighing molecules was essentially solved.
Okay, so quick side note. In science, there's always a but, right? They found a handful of things, like salts and acids, called electrolytes, where the pressure was a little higher than the law predicted. But this didn't mean the law was wrong. It just needed a tiny tweak, a correction factor, because those substances break into multiple pieces in water. The core idea was still rock solid.
So let's just pull back for a second and look at the whole story. We started with a simple question about how sap gets to the top of a tree. And the answer led to a fundamental law of nature that completely reshaped how we understand the physical world.
Just think about the sheer range of this one simple principle. It explains how trees defy gravity. It's the reason the cells in your body and in every plant don't just collapse. It gave chemists a master key to weigh molecules and understand reactions. It even explains the forces at work inside a solid rock. From a giant redwood to a microscopic crystal, this law is truly universal.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The answer to one of the biggest scientific puzzles of the 19th century didn't come from a bigger machine or a new chemical. It came from a simple, brilliant analogy. What if dissolved stuff acts like a gas? So you gotta ask, what other massive breakthroughs are just sitting there waiting for someone to make a simple connection, to see an old pattern in a brand new place?